And step number 6 is the last of the morality group of Buddhist trainings. And this one is right effort or skillful effort. And in a way, really, this one is like the heart of the entire practice. So skillful effort means that we're trying not to create openings for negative states of mind, negative actions of body, speech, or mind. If those negative actions come up, we're trying to counteract them or not act on those impulses. And then once we have a little freedom from those negative impulses, we can actually start to generate positive ones instead. So we're actively cultivating positive states of mind and then trying to maintain them and create more of a habit of spending time in those positive states. So for instance, the example is often used of anger. If you're having a moment of anger, then just noticing that is already good. So you're not getting carried away into that and creating a whole big thing around it. I like to use the example of being in traffic because traffic, again, going back to my Houston days, is really bad there and it can take a lot of patience to make it through a traffic jam. So if I'm in a traffic jam and I feel all this anger and frustration arising, just noticing it in the first place is already good. And then one thing I like to do is just to start like singing some mantras or otherwise bringing to mind, compassionate, inspiring images or thoughts to kind of counteract that negativity of thinking, why is this not moving? Why are people trying to cut me off? So it's a way of counteracting, using compassion to counteract anger. And it might sound dumb, but seriously, try it sometime. If you know any mantras, or even you can just use the expression, may all beings be happy. May all these people who seem to be in such a rush, may they all be safe. May they all be happy. Imagine what rush hour would look like if everybody was happy and compassionate toward each other. That'd be very different. So it's a way of counteracting that negativity and just not feeding it. So then in the absence of anger, now we can have real compassion. And we might have had to fake that compassion in the beginning. Maybe I had to really make an effort to say some mantras or to think, may all beings be happy. Even you, sir, even you, I want you to be happy. But once that state has arisen in my mind, it feels so much better than anger. So then the goal of skillful effort really is to continue that sense of compassion, to expand it out, to really get in the habit of feeling that compassion. And for each of the 8 steps along the path, really this kind of effort is key. Knowing what we don't want to follow after, knowing what we do want to cultivate. And I want to just add sort of my own interpretation of this step on the path as well, which is that for a lot of people, I think, definitely for me, when I was a baby Buddhist, my effort was really strong and tight, very intense. I'm going to meditate at this time every day. And I would, I just came at it with so much seriousness and zeal. And I think it was actually good for me in the beginning to have that because it really got some energy and some momentum behind practice. But the more I progress in my practice, the more I'm able to just relax. So even within a given meditation session, even if I really had to work to carve out that time for that practice, can I now say, oh yeah, I have half an hour. I get to just be here. I get to be calm. I get to let my mind settle. And again, even within one session, in the beginning of that session, I might really need to hold my mind a bit tighter and really keep it on my object of meditation. But once my mind begins to settle down and get into the groove of focusing on the breath or whatever else I might be doing, then it's time to relax, to loosen up that effort, to let the effort feel more effortless. The Zen folks have this great phrase, effortless effort. That's kind of where you can begin to arrive to as you go later in a meditation session or as you progress down this path, and it just begins to be more and more part of your life. It takes less effort. And with that, let's move into the third type of practice on the Buddhist path, which is concentration. So step number 7 on the Noble Eightfold Path is right mindfulness. And this refers to the type of mindfulness we're probably all familiar with, like being present in each moment, trying to really notice what's going on within ourselves, around ourselves. It also, though, means to remember the object of your practice. So if you're practicing meditation, for instance, it's keeping in mind the type of meditation you want to do. So this is easy to do if you have a guided meditation, because the guidance is there to remind you of what you're doing. But if you're just sitting in silent meditation, the way you cultivate skillful mindfulness might be more to bear in mind, I really want to focus on the breath, just the bare sensations. I'm trying to cultivate my capacity for concentration, which is the 8th of the Noble Eightfold Path. I'm trying to cultivate my concentration, so I'm going to let go of anything that arises and just keep coming back to that. It's easy, if we're meditating, to start kind of bouncing around and doing different things in our practice. So this form of mindfulness, where we remember what we're practicing in a meditation session, is super helpful. And mindfulness also means going through daily life, for instance, trying to cultivate right actions. We're mindful of what we're doing. We're mindful of our intention for doing that, whether that intention is, helpful, positive, skillful, or whether there's a little bit of harmfulness mixed in with what we're doing. So that mindfulness applies to our internal states, the world around us, our actions, and just being aware of the results of our actions. Probably mindfulness is the thing people are most familiar with. So let's move on to step number 8 of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is concentration. And it's difficult to say exactly the difference between mindfulness and concentration because they're very connected to each other. But basically, with mindfulness, you know what's going on in your mind. You know if you're getting distracted, you know if you're getting sleepy or dull, and your mindfulness helps keep your meditation on track. In a meditation session, your capacity for concentration is really about resting the mind on one object. And I say resting the mind because concentration, optimally, it's not like a tight form of concentration, like now I'm breathing in, now I'm breathing out. It's really more, we pay attention to the breath in order to relax into it, or to whatever else our object of meditation is. You could have sound as an object of meditation. You could have bodily sensations as an object of meditation. You can even take your thoughts as an object of meditation and notice them, but they're not very good for cultivating concentration, because with concentration, you want to rest your attention on one object. Just let the entire mind sort of flow into one experience that you're having and rest in that. So if you're cultivating concentration, you want to choose a stable object. And the thing that makes concentration really powerful is that it brings all your mind's energies together. It's like taking a spotlight and then focusing it down to a laser beam. Because what you're really trying to do with Buddhist practice is to bring together wisdom and concentration. So you're using that focused mind to dig into your experience. If a thought comes up, if you're cultivating your concentration, you just kind of let it go. But if you've really established your concentration, then you can examine that thought moment by moment. You feel it arising, you feel it kind of fully unfolding, and then you feel it changing into something else or falling apart, dissolving back into your mind, and you're able to really see that process of impermanence play out in one thought, for instance. So to really cultivate concentration is necessary to reach the deeper stages of wisdom, because to really have what Buddhists are talking about when they talk about wisdom, it has to be your own experience. You have to have the experience yourself of seeing impermanence, of noticing the ways that we change, and we're not the same, 1 year to the next or 1 decade to the next. So concentration is really important for that, so that we can see precisely enough to really begin to see the deeper levels of reality. And that brings me back to the first 2 steps of the Noble Eightfold Path, which are skillful understanding and skillful thinking. And when you come back around to these 2, having cultivated all these skills, and I should just say, with the Noble Eightfold Path, it's not like you cultivate these things in order. each of them is related to all the others. Like, for instance, skillful effort comes into play with every step of this journey. But as you walk this path, as you get more skillful in your morality, in your mindfulness, in your concentration, then you can come back and maybe even read the same texts or be exposed to the same teachings about the Four Noble Truths, but you experience them in a different way. You're able to go more deeply into those truths and experience them for yourself instead of taking someone else's word for them. And that's where real cultivation of wisdom comes into play in the Buddhist tradition. And it's with wisdom that you finally undo ignorance. It's like cutting the root of cyclic existence. When your wisdom becomes so sharp and so skillful that you're no longer mistaking the nature of reality and mistaking your own nature, that's when you wake up into sort of unchanging, incredible non-dual bliss. So that was an incredibly brief tour of the Noble Eightfold Path. And I just want to close by saying that these teachings describe a path toward full awakening, toward total enlightenment. And for most of us, that's really not our goal. But what I have found in my own life is that as I have tried to understand these teachings, tried to put them into practice, my life has gotten so much better. I feel happier, my mind is clearer, I'm able to be more calm, I'm able to be more present, and it just brings a type of joy and satisfaction in life that it's not complete and total liberation from all forms of suffering, but it's really wonderful. And for me, it's enough of a motivation to keep practicing and to keep wanting to go deeper into this tradition. So thank you so much for joining me on this tour of the Noble Eightfold Path, which describes basically all of Buddhist practice. And I hope most of all that you will be able to put these teachings into practice to really get the benefit of the tradition and have a happier life. So thank you so much. May you be well.